Hey everyone, this is Hugo, and today I'm going to show you how to use Luna Park to build your own web apps. So let's get started. Once you're connected to Luna Park, you just have to click on the top right corner to access your dashboard. So let's create a new app. You can change its name and description right there. You can even choose an emoji for it, and then hit save. To open your app, just click on its name. So I'll just show you each panels to get a bit used to the editor, and then we'll build something actually useful. So to create a new file, just hit right click, new, and select the type of file you want to create. You can change its name and hit enter to save it. You can even create folders and rearrange your files. You might notice that their names are in blue. It's because they are unsaved. To save, you just have to click this button or hit Ctrl S. So let's open this layout file. To open it, just double click on it. And let's talk about the options panel. The content of this panel depends on the type of file you open. So this is a component and you have layout options. And if I double click on my script, I have the script options. Then we have the console panel. It will log values using the Visual Scripting node log. I can show you right now, but we'll talk about it a bit later. So just to show you, if I log something right now and hit play, it just shows in the console. Maybe right now we don't need it, so you can close it using this button. Then we have the inspector panel. So this panel depends on the type of element you're focusing on. So if you click on an element, you have the inspector of this element. If you click on a node on the Visual Scripting, you have the inspector for that node. If you click on a file, you have the inspector of that file, and so on. Lastly, we have the preview, which is like the big panel at the center, and you can see how your application looks like, or depending on the type of file, you can get some Visual Scripting editor, or maybe a configuration editor, and so on. Right, now let's create an actual app. First, you have to delete every file. So you can right click and hit delete, or you can hit the delete key, or you can hit the Ctrl plus delete key to skip the confirmation box. Now we will create a to-do app that is stored in your local storage. First, let's create a component. Components are elements that can be reused anywhere in your app, and we will name this one task box. This will be the element where you can write your task. So we will have an emoji picker to pick an emoji associated to our task, an input to type the actual text of the task, and a button to save it. Let's create this one. So I can click on the plus button on my layout option to create new elements, and I will use the predefined UI elements built in Luna Park, which are available under the widget element. So the first one will be an emoji picker, which can be found under form emoji picker. The next one will be a text input, and the last one will be a button. You can notice that some of those elements can have children. So in the button, we will add a new element, which will be a custom text. So we will write save, and now we have our save icon. Maybe we will rearrange those elements to be horizontal. So click on the parent div, and then we will add a new style. Click on the display. We will choose this icon, which is a flex display. By default, flex display are horizontal. We will add a gap between those elements, and we can pick a number, but the best way to pick a value is to use design token. So over on the input, then onto this blue little symbol, and click on the chains right there. Now you can choose between values that are auto-generated for your project. So let's pick this one. Then you might notice that the text input is a bit small. So let's click on it, add a new style, size, and we will pick a minimum width, let's say 280. They start to look like something. Then I want to introduce you about the properties of elements. So click on the button, and under the properties panel, you can see that there's a lot of properties available. For example, there's a loading properties, and if it's true, then the button have this little spinner. We don't need this one, so let's delete it. But we will use the type properties and set it to primary. So our button is now blue. Then click on the text input and add a new properties placeholder. And let's write something. Now, if we go to preview, we get our emoji pickers, our text input, and our button. But this doesn't do anything right now. Let's save our component, then click on the file and add a new variable. Our variable will be named task and will be an object with two properties. The first one will be its emoji, and the second one will be its content, which are both string. Now we can link our picker and input to this variable. So let's click on the emoji picker, and under the model, task, click emoji. And our text input, let's click on task, content. And just to see it live, let's add another child, which will be a variable, and click on our task. So you can see that emoji and content are empty, but if we choose an emoji and then add some text, you can see in real time that our variable is updated. So let's remove the variable and hit save. Now we want our save button to actually save the task. So let's create a new store, and this will be where we store the task. So our store will have a new attribute called tasks, which will be an array, which is basically a list of elements. And the element of those array will be an object with an emoji and a content, which are both string. Now let's say you want to save this store in the local storage of your user. So when they refresh the page, they still get their tasks. We'll just change the type of store from memory to local. Then hit save. Let's go to our task box and we will add an event to our button. The event will be click. And when the user will click on the button, this will trigger this logic. So click here, and this is the Visual Scripting editor. The best way to learn how to use Visual Scripting using Luna Park is to use the challenge, which is a list of cool little exercise, a bit like a video game, but you'll learn a lot of concepts about Visual Scripting with a little backstory and a little documentation. And each puzzle will be more and more challenging for you to learn a ton of stuff. So let's get back to our app. When we click on the save button, we want to ask our task to the store. So let's retrieve the store, then spread its content. And now we have our array of tasks. We want to add the current task to the array of tasks. So we will use the push node, and the element that will be pushed will be the task we created on our element, which is called task. So let's try to preview this. When I go to preview, and then let's hit save and go to our new store. So you can see that the task gets successfully added, but the input is still displaying the old value. So we need to reset this value when we hit save. So let's go to logic, and we will create a new node, set task, and create a new object, which will be empty. So now when you go to preview and hit save, it resets anything there. And when you go to our store, it's also added the content of the task box. Now we need to display the list of elements in our task box. Just for the sake of the demo, I will create a new task. So this is a preview of your tasks. So let's delete the last one and add a new one there. Let's hit save, and you can see that the task gets successfully added to your store. So let's create a new component, which will be the task list. And we want to display each task one by one. So for this, we will use template element and change the logic to for and select the tasks of our store. Then we will add a card inside our for, and then we will display a variable. We can select the template, which is each value of our for loop. Inside the value, we want the content of the task. So to get a preview, just hit preview, and we can see that we have two elements there. For a full-size preview, let's click on the task list and change the preview from compact to stretch. Then we will be a bit of styling. Click on the div, add a new display, and we will use the display grid. And each column will target a specific size, let's say 280. And when we have a lot of tasks, it will wrap and display the task in a grid. We can also add a gap. Let's use our design token XS, and let's add the emoji. So let's create a new variable and select the emoji. Just put it in front. And now we have the very base of our task list. So let's make a real page to see all of these working together. Create a new component, let's call it to-do page. And this type of component will be a page. So we can have a broader preview. We can add our two components. I just have to select the component, and then our component will be our task box. And then the second one will be the task list. Let's style this a bit. In our div, we will add display style section. Then display flex. The direction will be toward the bottom. We'll add our gap, maybe a bit bigger than the last one. Let's also add some spacing. Then center the task box. But we don't want our task list to be centered. So click on it and add a style. In size, we'll put 100%. So when we preview our page, it looks like this. If you want to see a full screen preview, just click there and we can add a new element. And when I hit save, it resets everything there and it added it to our list there. Now push escape to go back to the editor. If you want to preview on mobile, just click there. And you can see that our to-do list also works on mobile. We could also add a checkbox and some button to delete the task, but I think this will be enough for a first preview of Luna Park. Let's hit save, and then I'll show you a bit how to customize your application and export it. The first thing to do is to customize the color of your app. So click on the palette. Under the primary color, you can choose something maybe a bit warmer, and you can see that it affects everything in your page, including the button. The content will affect the background. Then you can change the border and the radius of your element in your page. You can also match the editor color if you prefer. Then it's save. Then under the compile icon, click on deploy, and this will create and host your application in Luna Park. Click on this button to open it. And now you have your application fully optimized, ready to be deployed. You can start using it right there. And you can see that it's working as intended. And if I refresh the page, you can see that my task is still there and it's pretty fast to load. If you want to host it yourself, you can download the source code, which will be the zip, and you'll just have to host those files to make it work. You can also make it portable desktop app. So let's open it. And you can see that you have your app as a native application on Windows. Thanks for listening. I hope you like this little overview of Luna Park. We'll dive a bit deeper in the next video. See you guys next time.